Action! Good evening, and welcome to another exciting episode of Movie NP, the vlog where we review movies and what we can learn from them to better our lives. This is a Halloween edition. Tonight's review is a unique film from 2023 titled Late Night with the Devil, written and directed by the Carnes brothers and starring David Dashmalchian. The film is 90 minutes, rated R, and carries an IMDb rating of 7 out of 10. It's available to stream on Amazon Prime Video, AMC Plus, and Fandango at Home, formerly known as Vudu.com. This independent film fits multiple genres, including horror, mockumentary, found footage, even historic fiction. Late Night with the Devil is a collection of strung together events and phenomena from the 1960s to the 80s. It's even filmed and presented in a vintage television format called Pan and Scan. For those of you youths that don't know what I'm talking about, well, imagine that your TV is nothing more than a square screen with sides of equal proportions. But let me give you some background as to why I call this historical fiction. You see, kids, the 1960s birthed a counterculture never seen before or since in the US. The youths at the time became disenfranchised with the establishment fueled by the Vietnam War and the conservative culture of the time. This led to an explosion of alternative cultures, leading to ideas such as hippie lifestyle, the free love movement, and other alternative lifestyles and the exploration of different religions. Enter Dr. Anton LaVey and his pivotal work, The Satanic Bible. Now, LaVey himself has stated that his brand of Satanism was a sensationalized approach to promoting the philosophy called humanism. However, the genie, or in this case, the demon, had already been let out of the bottle and led to an interest in Satan that resulted in classics such as Rosemary Baby and The Exorcist. And in fact, LaVey became a celebrity in his own right, being invited and featured on multiple talk shows, including Dr. Phil and The Tonight Show. He also was featured in a film called Devil's Reign and lends his work to the opening scenes of the film The Car. By the early 1980s, the sensation had boiled over, and the book titled Michelle Remembers, The Shocking True Story of the Ultimate Evil, A Child's Possession by the Devil, written by Lawrence Pazder and Michelle Smith. In 2023, probably by no coincidence, a documentary titled Satan Wants You details the events of this book. The book has since been debunked, but in the early 80s, it solidified and sparked a witch hunt, pun intended, and accusations of multiple groups guilty of satanic cults, worship, sacrifice, and abuse. I mean, the fast food joint down the road, the Midnight Crew were being accused of satanic worship. It's also led to a litany of paranormal guests being featured on talk shows. Pazder and Smith themselves became featured and were on multiple shows such as Oprah and The Geraldo Show. Now, let me take a moment here. Geraldo, I was rooting for you. I stayed up for Al Capone's vaults. I even failed a 7th grade spelling test because I was there for you. I was waiting for the treasure. And I know in my heart of hearts that if those bastards would have let you dig a little further, right beyond that next wall, I know that treasure was there. And I'm sure it's still there today. But I digress. Let's get back to the review of Late Night with the Devil. Spoiler alerts. So, Dashmalchian stars as Jack Delroy, the talk show host of a late night talk show titled Night Owls. He is the runner-up to Johnny Carson, and there is nothing more he wishes to do than beat out Carson in his ratings. The film starts out with a black and white found footage documentary that sets up the main plot. What we discover is that Delroy has been hanging out at the Grove, a direct reference to the real-life Bohemian Grove that is said to be an elitist club of wealthy individuals and celebrities. Soon after, we discover Jack's wife has died. This causes him to spiral down into depression, and his show suffers even further in ratings. This leads to Jack to stage an over-the-top, occult-themed episode on Halloween that he hopes will rocket him past Carson's ratings. In doing so, he invites psychic and medium Christo, former magician and debunker Carmichael Haig, and parapsychologist and author June Ross Mitchell. But the tour de force is Lily Diabo, a young girl that is the sole survivor of a satanic cult where abuse, sacrifices, and a mass suicide occurred. But Lily did not get out unscathed, for it is believed that as a result of her involvement in its cult, she has been possessed by a demon. Jack features each of his guests, and each one comes up against paranormal events that they did not expect. This builds up to Jack pushing June to reveal the demon that is possessing Lily. And this, of course, ultimately leads to all hell breaking loose. The film ends with Jack's wife appearing to him and begging him to kill her, secondary to the pain she is enduring due to cancer. Jack gives in and stabs her to death. However, quickly we discover that this is nothing more than an illusion that was created by the demon, and who Jack really murdered is Lily. We hear police sirens in the background as we cut to the credits. There's no doubt that episode tonight will far exceed Carson's ratings, but Jack will never enjoy the fruits of his labor. So, what is the psychology behind this, and what self help tips can we learn from it? So, my typical disclaimer: any therapy or medical practices that I discuss here are for information only. Only you and your healthcare provider can choose the best options for you. First and foremost, Late Night with the Devil is a classic sell your soul to the devil fable that questions what prices are you willing to pay for success. It's a parable that warns to be careful what you wish for, and always know that success of any type requires some sort of sacrifice. And as Mr. Spock once said, after a time you may find that having is not so pleasing a thing, after all, as wanting. It's not logical, but it's often true. Secondly, it's a warning to be careful of what you invite into your life. Jack thinks that by allowing the devil in, he will gain success. This is a metaphor for toxic relationships, drugs and substance use, and allowing negative energy into your life. Often these things are like viruses that cause more harm than good. Interestingly, Anton LaVey has a couple pages in his own book where he calls toxic people energy vampires, and he gives advice on how to get rid of them from your life. 3. Deal with trauma and don't suppress it. The film alludes to the emotional trauma that the characters have experienced. Ignoring or suppressing trauma only allows it to manifest in other ways, often in destructive ways. Think about hanging a beautiful tapestry over a wall with holes, bumps, sharp edges, and maybe the ceiling is leaking and the water is rolling down. In no time, the tapestry will be destroyed from edges poking through it and the water soaking through to the surface. This is much like how the subconscious and the conscious mind work. Things can get buried in the subconscious that, if not dealt with, end up poking through to the conscious mind. This leads to depression, anxiety, PTSD, etc. We see in the film that unresolved issues in the film escalate to horror. If this resonates with you, please get into therapy and perhaps even medications. As I explain it to my patients, the real healing occurs through therapy. There are multiple modalities of therapy, including CBT, DBT, Gestalt, and hypnotherapy. The list goes on and on. One of them will fit you, I guarantee it. Medication, on the other hand, is nothing more than a tool. It's a tool that gives you the momentum to get you over the speed bumps and soothes the emotional pain just enough so that you can face your demons in therapy. 4. Things are not always what they seem. There's a lot of tension in this film because the audience is not sure what's real and what's fake. I think this message is perhaps the most relevant to current events. Who do you trust today? What news is telling the truth and who's feeding us propaganda? Furthermore, there seems to be no sense of truth in advertising today. Even organizations you once depended on are no longer dependable. Case in point, a few years back, I was looking to purchase a home gym from a leader in the industry. However, discovered that the product the manufacturer was advertising was more expensive than the gym with the same name and the same manufacturer in a leading department store. What I noticed, however, was the model was exactly the same, with the exception that there was a -X at the end of the serial number. So I called the manufacturer directly and asked them, why is the product in the store $100 less than what you're selling it for directly? I was told that the model was made exclusively for that store using inexpensive materials and cheaper parts. If I had not noticed this and did my research, I would have thought I was getting a deal, but in fact, I was being scammed. It's no longer about the pride of an organization making a good product, it becomes how they can separate you from your money. It serves as a reminder not to take things at face value and to dig deeper for truth, especially when you feel misled or overwhelmed by external factors. Critical thinking and awareness can help you avoid manipulation and make better choices. In nursing and medicine, we are taught and trained to have strong critical thinking skills. I would encourage all of you to seek out a class or some education to develop your critical thinking skills. And five, perhaps the most important, don't let fear control you. Fear plays a significant role in this film. While fear is a natural response, learning to manage it is key to navigating life's challenges. Fear often prevents people from taking risks or moving forward. Learning to master your fears can help you thrive even in uncertain situations. I often compare life to the whack a mole game. In fact, if you stick your head up to get ahead in life, you'll get smacked down, back down into the holes. In fact, it's not just a risk, I guarantee you're going to get smacked down. The first time this happens, most people become fearful to stick their heads back up again. Success is not about not getting hit. I guarantee, try to be successful and you will get hit. But what's important is that you continue to stick your head up as many times as often as you can. The winner of the game is not those that don't get hit. The winner is the one that keeps popping their heads up regardless of how many times they get hit and keeps their heads up above the hole the longest. Well, that's it for tonight. Please click like and subscribe and share with a friend. Comment below your thoughts and join me next week when I review the 1972 classic and inspiration for the X-Files, The Night Stalker, starring Darren McGavin, better known as Ralphie's dad in The Christmas Story. Pleasant nightmares, and I hope the bed bugs bite.